Good morning, friends. Today is August 31st, 2021. It is my son's 15th birthday. 15. 15. And forgive me the very, very, very informal setting here. I'm in my bed, and yes, those are Christmas lights. Those are lights framing my headboard. I put those up last December, and I never took them down because I like them. They're kind of falling down, so I'm gonna have to retape them back up there. But yeah, baby, Christmas lights. Because laying up in here with me is a gift. Get into it. But 15. And let me tell y'all what I did today, this morning. I have a friend who is Indian, from Asia, and so she and I were together maybe a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about Joshua's birthday. And she was telling me that she had mentioned Joshua to her mother over in India. She talks to her mom every day. And so her mom told her that that in their culture, on a birthday, the child goes to the parents and receives a blessing. The parent gives the child their blessing. And so I didn't ask for specifics or details. I don't know why. We were headed out of town and I was driving. But in my mind, or my interpretation of what I thought she meant, and what she may have meant, I don't know. But what I thought she meant was that you go to your parents and your parents speak a blessing over you. And so the mom also said that on one's birthday, the birthday person, the honoree, does something charitable for someone else. Such wonderful traditions. So I was so maybe about a week ago. What's today? Tuesday. So yeah, it was sometime last week. I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote out a blessing for Joshua on his birthday. Now, Josh and I are very spiritual people. We pray together daily. We don't read the Bible daily. We started out, reading the book of Proverbs, but we haven't finished because we're not as consistent as we can be. But we're very spiritual, and we pray each and every day. And I always talk to him about the Lord and about faith. And so I wrote out this blessing like I said, about a week ago. And I won't get into the blessing that I spoke over him today, but I spoke a blessing over my son today. And Joshua is at that age, 15, and you're trying out different things, and some things are working and some things are not. And I can tell that he's dealing with some stuff. There have been some disappointments. And as a parent, you just hate to see them go through. But I know God is faithful. And I tell Joshua all the time that I have a vision for our family. I have a vision for his future, that I believe that God told me to name him Joshua, and that God isn't random in any of his doings, and that like his namesake, like his biblical namesake, Joshua, the son of Nun, Joshua, the son of Neely, is a leader and a warrior, and he's faithful and he's obedient, and that he will lead people into their promised lands. And so in encouraging him, The Lord has been dealing with me about how to encourage him and um, and how to speak to him, because people understand different ways. Josh was a very unique individual. And the way the more I communicate with him, the older he gets, the more unique I realize he is. And I'm not bragging about him. I know every parent rightly feels that their child is unique because every individual is unique. But Joshua is really testing my mettle in terms of communicating. He's helping me change how I communicate. And so this is what I told my son after I had spoke the blessing over him. And well, it was a bit of a process, because what I did was I washed his face and his hands and I anointed him. We do that too. Lead your children to God, but that's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But lead your children to God, because the accuser is out here. The enemy is out here. But I washed his face and I washed his hands and I anointed him. And I read from the book of Joshua, the first chapter. We read the entire first chapter. And I read from the 6th chapter. I think it was the 16th or the 18th verse. Well, anyway, I'm having another thought. Wait a second. I read from the book of Joshua because I tell Joshua this story all the time, that when I was pregnant with him, my grandma had convinced me. Now, I hadn't seen a sonogram, a sonographer. I had seen a doctor, but just for that initial visit. But my grandmother was so overjoyed about that pregnancy, and she convinced me that I was having a girl. She was like, there hadn't been a girl born in this family in 20 years. You having the first girl in 20 years. And I was like, okay. And I just went on with it. So much so, I was so convinced that I had come up with a name for my daughter. So my baby girl had a name. Well, I go to the appointment where they tell you the gender, and lo, I was having a boy. And I am going to tell you the hidden desire in my heart, and what I had said years ago, is that I wanted my firstborn child to be a son. I'm my mother's firstborn. I'm a firstborn daughter. But I wanted my firstborn child to be a son. And so when I saw that I was not having a girl and was instead having a boy, I was not disappointed at all. It was like a fulfillment of prophecy or an answered prayer. I was overjoyed, and I laid on that table and giggled I was so delighted. And I tell Joshua this, and I told Joshua before that I had to go home that day and start thinking of boy names. And so I had this tablet, this notebook on my bed, and I had a bunch of names written down, a bunch of boy names written down, and I had not decided on a name, and his particular name was not on the tablet. And so I remember sitting in my bed in my mom's house and hearing clear as a bell, his name will be Joshua. You know, I was at that house by myself. Wasn't nobody there to say that, but I heard it. His name will be Joshua. And so I sat up in the bed. I was like, okay, I actually like Joshua. And at that time, 15 years ago, Joshua had become very popular. Everybody was naming their baby Joshua. But I wasn't turned off by that. I wasn't turned off by the fact that it had become so common. I liked the name, so I wrote it. I wrote it down, and I didn't get any guidance on the middle name. Um, and so that's how, and so after I heard his name will be Joshua, I was then led to read the book of Joshua. And that really firmed it up and cemented in my heart who he would be. So now I'm at this place where I have this 15-year-old son, and he's changing my communication, and God is teaching me his language, teaching me Joshua Neely's language, and how to communicate with him in a manner that's effective. And sometimes, many times, the effective manner that God is teaching me is very different from my learned manner, the manner that I know and that I'm accustomed to. And sometimes that effective manner includes not speaking, closing your mama mouth. And so I do a lot of not speaking when the Lord is saying, not now, don't say, he's not ready. Don't say anything to him. So I don't. But today, I told him this because, y'all, these teenagers deal with a lot. They live in cancel culture. Everybody is ready to pick them apart. This is why I don't allow Joshua a lot of social media. He doesn't have Facebook. I'm very careful about him and social media because it's a lot of mean-spirited demons out there. And so I'm careful with him and teaching him how to guard his spirit, what to let in and what not to let in. But some stuff you can't help but hear because you're dealing with teachers and you're dealing with coaches and you're dealing with, other children. You're dealing with classmates and schoolmates. And God hadn't been invited into every home like he's been invited into ours. So some of that stuff gets past us. But I told Joshua this today. Joshua, if a person says something and God says something on the same subject, who is right? And he answered correctly and said, God. I said, okay. I said, if you say something and God says something different, who is correct? And he said, God. I said, okay. If I say something and God says something different on that same subject, speaks into your spirit, who is right between God and your mother? And he said, God. If a coach says something, if a teacher says something, if a preacher says something, if a doctor says something, and God has said something different on that same matter, who is correct? He said, God. I said, remember that. Anything that is contrary to what God has spoken into your heart, spoken into your spirit, once you've gotten confirmation that what you heard is from God, anything, anybody, including me, says that is contrary, is wrong. And we may not intend you any harm. Some people do, many people don't. If it's contrary to what God has spoken to you, it is absolutely false. And don't let it get into your spirit. And don't adopt anybody else's opinion but the Lord's. Now I'm going to put that in my spirit too, because the enemy has been coming in and trying to infect my spirit. Things look one way in the natural, but I know I heard God. You know you heard God. You know you heard him. It doesn't look like it's going to work out, but you know you heard God. So it's going to work out. Y'all have a good day. It's my baby's birthday. You deserve to enjoy yourself on August 31st. You deserve it. You deserve it. This is a glad day. This is a blessed day. I've been a mother for 15 years. I can't believe it. I remember the day he was born. I remember preparing myself the day before. You deserve a piece of cake today. You deserve that. You deserve a good meal. You deserve a hug. You deserve some joy. So go have a blessed day. Be encouraged. Happy birthday, Joshua. Happy Tuesday to the rest of us. Bye.